Hello, this is Alex from LearnBeachVolleyballFast.com, and this is part something in my hand setting mini series. Honestly, I've lost count by this point and I think I made some mistakes, so whatever. In this video we're gonna look at the alone drill for learning hand setting. Basically we're trying to get rid of all excuses to practice the handset, and I'm gonna show you that the handset is actually the easiest out of the volleyball skills to practice all alone. You don't need a court, you don't need a partner, you don't need people to play with, you almost need nothing, and you can still learn the handset in a fun way as long as you know how. So basically, in the most ghetto version of this drill, I guess we don't really need anything except a volleyball and like ground, like just floor or pavement, and maybe a wall would be good. But in the better version of this drill, we go to a basketball court, so we have a basketball hoop. We have a ball that's inflated more than a normal beach volleyball. So I have an old indoor volleyball here that I found at a thrift store for $2. That would work. Don't use a new indoor ball outdoors, it might get worn out. And also music is good to have. So there's a chance that you already saw this drill in the end of part 1 in this mini series, but we're anyway gonna start with having a look at what the drill looks like and also some variations of it. So, music first. Always remember to bring water. Okay, so let's first look at sort of the nature of how you do this drill. It's important to remember that even though we are on a basketball court, we're not playing basketball. We're practicing for volleyball or beach volleyball. Which means that we want to make it as beach volleyball-like as possible. And then there's two main things that comes to my mind when I say that. One is the arch of the flight path of the ball, and second is the importance of scoring. So first of all, the basketball hoop is 10 feet up in the air. A men's volleyball net is 8 feet up in the air, and a women's is almost a foot lower than that. So basically, if we want to score in the basketball hoop as easy as possible, that means that we barely want the ball to fly over the hoop and sort of just like that, like easily in, like okay, it's hard to do here on the camera. But the thing is that this set would be a very low set in beach volleyball. So most probably we're gonna want to set a little bit higher. So we want to have a higher arch into the basketball hoop. Probably a good idea would be to have it a little bit over the backboard. One thing I learned is that if you learn to set high sets, it's easy to adapt to the lower sets. But if you only learn low sets, it's actually harder to adapt when you have a partner that wants higher sets. So I would rather have you practice a little bit higher sets than a little bit too low sets. Okay, the second is the importance of scoring. Because basketball is sort of a precision sport in a way, because you get points when the ball goes through the hoop. What we need to remember though is that in volleyball we're setting a partner that's a human being that can adapt and move. So we actually don't need to be as precise in volleyball. It's never a bad thing if we're very precise, if we can put it in the hoop every single time. But we need to remember when we practice that just being close to the hoop is good enough for volleyball. and if we even hit the rim, that's very good. So don't get hooked up on if it goes through the hoop or not. It's merely just a target, like make it go that way, sort of somewhere there, and you're good enough. Then we should also think about how far from the hoop we are. Because in beach volleyball, this is actually something we haven't talked about in this mini-series, but in beach volleyball, quite often you want to set only like 1.5 meters or 5-6 feet from you, and your partner sort of comes close to you rather than you setting out to a partner that is far away. So probably most sets in beach volleyball are sort of at that standard length from the setter, which means that I showed you some close position sets and some far position sets. The close positions are probably actually more beach volleyball like, even though they might feel a little bit unnatural at the basketball court. In the basketball court, we would probably be more often doing those far away shots. However, it's also good to do those far away sets also with the volleyball, because it does happen in real games, and I think it's also good to be able to calculate the arch, which will be different heights depending on how far you are from the target. That's also something we haven't covered in this mini-series, but basically when you're setting from further away, you want to have a higher set so that the arch is sort of the same shape, so that there's more time for your partner to attack the ball. So you don't want to have it the same height when you go further away, because then it gets very, very shallow, very quick, and that's hard to attack from. Then you can also, of course, bump set, and you can also do these random weird combination sets where the ball sort of bounces around and you do many sets and try to hit the target. I think that's good because in beach volleyball there's a lot of random balls. There's a lot of weird scrappy balls where you sort of have to be ready for anything that comes, and this can sort of simulate that when you just let the ball bounce off the rim and you go after it again, try to set it from the new position, and so on. You can also practice back sets. So the first time I practiced back sets at a basketball court, it was sort of a joke. I was just out here doing this, and then I was like, hey, what about trying some back sets? And as I said, it was sort of a joke at first, but I actually came to realize something that has been very helpful that I want to share with you. So you see that there's some lines in the ground, and there usually is in front of a basketball hoop. There's various lines. Sometimes you're in a gym and there's more lines, sometimes there's less lines, but you can most usually find something. And what I realized was when I was doing the back sets that sure, I cannot see backwards, I cannot see the hoop, but I can always see forwards, and I always see what's in front of me. And I see that these lines, and I can actually mentally map out these lines and where the hoop is compared to these lines. So actually, by looking at what's in front of me and the lines that I have in front of me, I could actually calculate how far away and in which direction the hoop would be. And that actually helped me backset into the hoop. And yes, this does translate to beach volleyball as well, because when you're backsetting in beach volleyball, you also have lines. You have the court lines. Sometimes you see the net. Sometimes you see trees that are around the court or some other things. So you can actually mentally map out sort of the distance and where you want to set it also in beach volleyball by practicing this mapping technique. Then lastly, about the nature of how you technically do this drill. So the reason I bounce the ball in the ground is to sort of simulate a pass, a serve receive from my partner, and then I actually have to work on the skill of making sure I get under the ball, and then I can set from there. That's something I talked about in a previous video. Of course, if you want to make it easy for you, you can also do it without the bounce and just throw the ball out. And you can also make the bounce more difficult by making it move more to the side, so that you actually have to do more footwork, which sometimes might be a little bit more game-like. However, if you do this, please do not be like me and bring shoes. It helps a lot. Flip-flops are not good. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about motivation to actually do this drill. Because honestly, yes, it does take a little bit of mental craziness to go all by yourself to basketball and practice this kind of stuff alone. I used to be a skateboarder and snowboarder where I would spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours practicing stuff all alone by myself in the dark in my backyard with no one watching. So for me it's very natural to go to a basketball court like this and practice by myself, but I know it's not so normal for everyone that are not used to it. But really understanding and seeing the benefits, of course, is a very key to motivation. You have to understand what this will do to your game. You have to understand how cool it is that you can get repetitions by yourself and you can actually come and train your handsetting technique, and then you can go to your friends and like, hey, look what I learned. And all of a sudden they're gonna be like, whoa, where did that come from? And of course, you don't need to specifically go somewhere to do this thing. Because for me, for example, let's say that I'm stoked to play volleyball one day, but I have trouble finding people to play with. So I decide I go to the gym instead and work out. Well, close to the gym there's a few basketball hoops. So I would just bring my ball and come and do this for 15 minutes before I go to the gym, and I get some reps down. And honestly, for skill building, it's actually better to get a few reps for a little bit often rather than a long time, but not so often. Because I think many people think that a volleyball practice, well, that's an hour, 1.5, 2 hours sort of thing, but I'm not gonna go and do this for 2 hours. Well, no, you don't need to. You just do it for a little bit and then you go to do something else. Another little thing about motivation is this idea that what if practice is only boring if you don't know what you are practicing? With this I mean that I want you to be very clear on what you are working on. So before I showed you a bunch of different sort of exercises, different versions of this exercise. But probably in the beginning you actually want to do a very simple exercise and practice different parts of the technique instead. So either you practice the handshake method or the ball release or whatever, and then you get repetitions on that exact little detail of the handset. And then later, when your handset technique is down, then you can start doing these variations sort of to become a more well-rounded handsetter. But please make sure to always have a plan with your practice so that you're not out here just doing empty repetitions for the sake of doing repetitions. Always have a plan and know what you're practicing. I promise it will be way more fun that way. Another thing you can do to make it more fun is actually to have variation. So not only do this drill, but also do other drills in between. There are alone drills for hitting and for serve receive and jumping and the approach and whatnot, which we're not gonna go into that in this video, but really you can vary between setting a few, and you can even do like sort of like running drills where you do different steps for quickness and whatnot, or you can jump and try to touch the hoop or whatever. There's many things that you can do in between, so that then you're sort of building this like varying practice for yourself, where you do a little bit of that, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, and that will be more fun than only doing one thing. And lastly, music and friends. So grab some music that you like yourself and listen to that. That can put you in sort of a flow state where you're running around setting, and it's very nice to do to music. And of course the strength of this drill is that you can do it alone, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it with friends. And with friends you can actually have variations. You can have sort of this one person sets, and wherever, if the ball doesn't go through the hoop, wherever the ball goes, well then you have to set it from there, and the next person sets from wherever the ball goes after your set, and so on and so on and so on. And you can have different points and whatnot, which can actually make it quite fun to do. I know me and a few other guys did this once when we were waiting for an indoor court and we had some time to kill off. Alright, that's it for today. I hope I have given you some new ideas and inspiration, and that you might use this drill to actually work on your handsets. It will be worth it, I promise. As always, click the like button if you like this video, subscribe to the channel if you want more like this, join the Facebook group if you want even more like this. Share this to a friend that you think need this, and check out the rest of the handsetting mini-series if you want even more ideas on like actual technique and mindset stuff and what not that you might need to learn the handset. Cool. See you later.